Greetings shippers, hi! So this is the assumptions video that we're going to be doing and I'm super excited. However, this is an insert because I filmed it and as you can see, we're using a new camera and the first memory card copped out, didn't record any footage, just audio. So for the first little bit, I'm going to be doing it classic style, just with images on the screen, and I've recorded some ludicrous B-roll to also put in the background for you to look at, and then after the first few comments, it's gonna go back to being a video like this. So I hope you enjoy, and for those of you asking, why didn't you just refilm it? Well, it's because the reactions you're going to hear, rather than see, are my genuine first reactions to the assumptions, and I wanted to keep that because that can't be recreated. So, just letting you know, and enjoy. And I will see you again after a few comments and at the end. Okay? Bye. Or rather, hi. A while back, I asked all of you for your assumptions across various platforms. I think pretty much every one that I have because different people are in different places and I wanted to see the different things all of you would come up with. Also, I've just found this trend to be really fun. I just saw it pop up randomly on one of my recommendeds and next thing I knew I was in a world of watching assumptions about people, not even people that I necessarily watch. So I thought it would be fun to do a version but dealing with ships and assumptions about some of yours about me and in general and stuff like that because, well, this channel is about shipping for the most part. So this will probably be a long one, so strap in. Let's do this, but quickly before we do, if you haven't already, please do follow on social media to stay up to date, know when we're streaming, just come on over and chit chat about fandom and be able to get involved in videos like this. So I'm going to start with the assumptions that came over on Patreon. The first assumption is from Lucy HP. You always have multiple ships for a show. The most outlandish a crack ship, the better. You prefer rare ships. I got this one a lot, the first part, the multi-shipper part. And yes, that is 100% true. I am indeed a multi-shipper, multiple ships all the time across the board. But it must be reiterated because this comes up a lot on my channel that I don't ship everything that we talk about here. The videos here actually, for the most part, unless otherwise specified, have nothing to do with what I ship or don't ship. They're looking at the ship in general and the pros and cons for everybody and what anybody might like or not like about the ship. So they're not about me specifically. Lots of times I get comments of, oh, I'd love to see what you think, but that almost never happens, except for some rare exception videos like Iron Jewel or something like that, or when we're talking in a Fic Rec Friday or on a stream. There's gonna be more elaborate on that later about how I ship because it's hard to explain. I have no preference for rare or popular pairs. It's just whichever one speaks to me, be it rare or popular. It does not matter, but I do enjoy a good crack ship makes me happy. Kaylee Brown had a lot to say. One, that you probably liked a lot of ships that are now considered popular back when they were still considered strange or odd. I find that a lot of ships that are highly shipped now started out that way. And two, you appreciate a creatively written rare pair. So there was more to that, but we already talked briefly about rare pairs, so I'm gonna focus on the first one. So when I got into shipping, it was in the early 2000s, the early aughts, as they now call it. That's the word we're going with, aughts. So it was still odd to be shipping in general. To talk about shipping or be involved in shipping in general was odd, let alone the pairings, like those were a whole other thing, but just the concept. You didn't really talk about shipping that much, at least not out in public. It wasn't something that you could do the way you do now, where even if people will mock and stuff, you can still kind of be like, yeah, I'm a shipper. And unless you're Tessa Thompson or some other people, let's be fair, most people are aware of what it is, at least in a fandom sphere, tangentially, even if they don't have the most positive view of it. Whereas back in the day, it was like, what's that? What are you talking about? You do what now? So yeah, I would say that most ships I got into back when I first started would fall into the not very popular category, but just because shipping wasn't very popular or talked about, and I don't know, maybe that wasn't the worst thing. Katisa Ryder assumes, you hope to get baby shipper into shipping someday. You will celebrate her for a ship. For me, baby shipper, I hope to enjoy some fandoms with baby shipper. If she ends up liking the same fandoms as me, of course, that would be amazing, but if not, that's fine too. I'm sure we'll find things that we like together. Currently, she's tending a bit towards Batman, which is fantastic, but if she ends up shipping, at least, I don't know, she'll have an understanding person to talk to, but probably she'll rebel the opposite way. That'll be her rebellion. I hate shipping. No TPs all the time. Shipping's disgusting. She'll start an anti-shipping channel. Our last one on Patreon comes from Be Cheap. My assumption is that when you see some discourse surrounding a ship, whether it be a crack ship or dark, you gravitate towards that ship rather than the larger ones, initially out of curiosity, but as shipping usually does, it just takes one step for it to spiral. When I see discourse surrounding a ship or anything, I just take note of it. I make notes because there's always the potential for a video. So I have a bunch of files that are just saved that are just notes, and they'll have names that only make sense to me, such as salty JK Rowling tweets or just She-Ra fanfic assumptions. And also, if anybody else opened these notes, it would be like when you find a notebook in a horror movie and it's just full of scribbles that no one else understands and it looks like you've gone mad, you know, like all ship and no play, make Jack go crazy. The next place I posted was on Instagram, so I'm gonna hop over there. So over here, we have #1 Fangirl and Marveler, and they assume Destiel was your first ship. Destiel was not my first ship. I got into shipping when I was younger because some people will say like, oh, like she's old, so obviously not. But you don't know when people get into shipping. You don't have to get into when you're young. You can kind of fall into it later on as well. But for me, since I got into it when I was in my early teens, Destiel was a lot later in the permeation of fandom, not even an inkling in fandom's eye. So when I did a Q&A a while ago, I talked about some of my early ships, and some of the earliest ones were from the Dragon Ball Z fandom. So I think if I had to look back at some of the early ones and take a look at what really started me into examining fanfiction and looking for all those Angel Fire sites and GeoCity sites and all of that, well, that would have to be Vegible and also Gogeta. Gogeta was a big thing back in the day. Ghibli Girl #4 says, you secretly have ships you hate, but you're too nice to talk about them. I really don't. For most ships, I can reach an even keel of understanding. And in fact, here's the thing I wanted to explain earlier. I'll do it in the hate section. I will read works and look at art and everything for ships that I do not ship. And so it puts me in a very unique space where I'm looking at absolutely everything. So for me, my camera died because now that I'm using a proper camera, I have camera struggles. So as I was saying, it puts me into this space where when I ship a ship, I'm looking at all of the other ships there as well, but there's something about the one that I end up shipping that draws me to it in an extra capacity. Beyond just reading fics, beyond looking at art, it turns into something that I actively think about as well, which does not happen with all ships. No hate here, just love. Wild for Dead Writer says, Destiel/Stucky Trash. I have to say, I very much enjoy the term trash as fandom slang. It's just so aggressive, but also it's one of those fun fandom self-derogatory words that can really indicate that people are having a good time. And even if people try and turn around, the fact that you're already using it that way really makes it just trash. It's so good. But as for that, no, I'm not Destiel or Stucky Trash. Those are not ones that I tend to gravitate towards in my spare time. They have great works though. Like there are some epics in those two fandoms because people are so invested. Like if you go there, you're gonna find some amazing stuff. I've definitely read some great pieces. Still on the hunt for that one season 8 fic. Someone sent it to me and I'm in that realm of, is that the fic? Is it not? Did I dream the other one? I don't know. Lily Delfin says, you don't ship a person with multiple people at the same time. Well, as a multi-shipper, that could mean that you ship only other people, so that's why I'm addressing this one too. But no, I was just bicycles for everyone. Everyone's a bicycle, everyone's a little black dress, everyone with everybody all the time. Also Jen doesn't get enough love. And in one of my other videos, someone commented, what's Gen? And I realized I use the term pretty just flippantly and casually. So Gen, for those who are not in the know, means general fiction. It doesn't mean that it has to be rated G or anything like that. It just means that it's not pairing focused. Gabriel Schwartz says, you're taller than you look. I don't know if I look short or not, so I don't know what you're assuming. How tall do you think I am? I don't know. You need to put the height. I can't answer. Melanie238. Though you're all in for rare pairs, you're secretly trash for popular ships. It depends. It depends on the fandom. It really varies from fandom to fandom. It's like I talk about in my vids. Every fandom experience can be different. So you could be mainstream trash in one fandom, but totally into the rare pairs in others. So it completely varies for me depending on what's going on in the fandom and how I feel about the story and just what grabs me. For me, I let the ships happen. What I end up shipping is what I end up shipping. If I end up shipping the most problematic pairing, Well, it is what it is. Melanie also says, you're darker and dirtier than you appear when it comes to fics. I thought that the darkness was pretty out there on the table, especially after we did the video about, are you afraid of the dark fic? I know I didn't get very dark there, but that was for everybody else. Because for some people, like, the threshold of darkness varies very much from person to person. So what might appear like barely dark to one person might be like the depths of the pit to somebody else. So I wanted to represent a wide range, but there are definitely fics that I've read that I will probably never share with anybody, and there's some of my faves. There's a really, really dark Godfather fic. Cue the Godfather has fan fiction? Yes, it does. And there's one that I read years ago. It's from the Angel Fire days, and it's still around, like, lurking on Squidge. So every now and again, I'll go and reread it, and it was the darkest thing, and it was a really formative experience reading that back in the day and realizing that fics like that were out there. It was interesting, and it was okay to read it and explore it, and it didn't change me. I wasn't suddenly this like horrible dark person who wanted to do awful things. It was a thing that I read, and it made me think about stuff, and it was interesting, and I wanted to explore that feeling more of, what else is out there? This is intriguing. It was nice to see that there was such a huge range from like these really positive fics to these really dark, intriguing, working through some seedy stuff that people don't talk about fics. So yeah, I appreciate all types of fics because I appreciate all types of discussions, and I think that they all deserve to be had. That's not to say that there aren't fics that can obviously be working towards trying to hurt people, but that happens a lot more rarely than people think. And intent with fics very much matters. If someone is not trying to hurt somebody, that very much needs to be taken into account. Canceling is real these days. It's too real, too fast. Too much, too fast. Slower, lower, not as far. Figure skating Bob says, you use a brush to blend your makeup, not a sponge.
Who told you?
I bet you watched my alternative makeup video and saw me use a brush. But yes, I do use a brush and not a sponge. My dear Lady Disdain says something that kind of piggybacks off what we were just talking about. You were drawn to ships of our darker / problematic nature. What I am drawn to is complex narratives, and sometimes those tend to attach themselves to the darker ships, but they don't have to. In fact, there's a lot of fluffy light fare that can be quite complex and introspective, but people tend not to think about it in that way as much. There's a lot of blending when it comes to some of the happier fare that's interesting. So I am just as happy to sit down and read a Jessica Jones Kilgrave fic as I am to sit down a Clark and Lois are married fic and they're thinking about their lives and what they're gonna do and how many kids they're gonna have. As long as it's written in a way that's really exploring interesting themes, that's what I like. I like introspective character pieces the most, and the ones that work in action with that are some of my faves. So the ship doesn't have to be dark or problematic. It doesn't make me like it more or less. For me, ships are ships. I don't prefer fluffy ones to dark ones or dark ones to healthy ones or anything like that, or quote unquote healthy, because again, it's fandom, so the way you interpret the relationship can be different. What's healthy to one person could be horrible to somebody else, and also you can play with the canons and switch things around. There are certain ships that people don't like to allow to have different fanon reads, which is in a way quite hypocritical, because then it creates a world where only certain pairings are allowed to be played with, but other ones you have to adhere to the canon specifically. But the whole point of fandom is that you can play around with what the canon presented. So really, all ships should be up for grabs for interpreting positively or negatively, and that's part of what makes it so interesting to see all of these other takes. I am rambling. This video is going to be a million years long. Emetheria says, you prefer ships from visual media, like movies or TV shows rather than books. Personally, no, but the sadness of my life's great fandom sadness, is that so many book fandoms don't balloon the same way. So I cannot tell you the amount of times I've read a book, gone online to be like, I can't be the only person who cares about X and X, and there's nothing. There's not one. The category doesn't exist anywhere. Nobody has written anything. It's so sad, and alas do not have the time to be like, I'll be that person, I'll start the cat. No, I won't. I'm not gonna pretend. I'm not that person. Somebody else needs to do it, and it's not me. Gwen Toffling says, your fave ships are superheroes, comic and TV / movies, and probably along the darker side. And I would be surprised if you were a victim of one of the fic purges, and like most of us, you didn't think to back up your work. I was a victim of the purges. just by virtue of the time I came into fandom. I was so young. Oh God, I feel old. I was so young back then that I didn't really conceive of the idea that the fics would vanish. The internet itself was such a new thing in terms of being in your home and something that you used every day. I didn't think about the idea that anybody would want to take the fics down, or anything about domains expiring, or companies shutting things down, or authors getting really mad about fanfic works and trying to take them down. None of that. So there are some early fics that I definitely lost. There is one. It was a Kirk and Trelane pairing, and I've never found it again. And it was so interesting. It was at the end of the Squire of the Gothos, where instead of having a duel, other things happened. And it was really well written, or at least I thought so in my about 13 or 14-year-old mind. It probably was not as well written as I'm remembering it, but I'm just sad that I can't find it anywhere. I don't know if it still exists. So many things vanished. And also, I didn't bookmark pages or anything, so yeah, there's tons of fics that I will never see again. There was also a great Spock and T. Pring fic about them talking about their marriage and why it didn't work, and I've never been able to find it. Skyborn Veggie says, Shipwise, I assumed you have always been as common accepting of pairings as you are now, and have never gone through an angry rabid fangirl phase or been in a flame war. I have not been in a flame war, no, and I have always been into all, like, accepting, because I've always been a multi-shipper. I started off a multi-shipper. I will always be a multi-shipper. I started off a multi-fandom person, hopping from fandom to fandom to fandom, and I was a massive lurker, and I still am. People don't believe that, but it's true. I was a massive, massive lurker. So for me, I was just observing, and it always looked the most fun when everybody was getting along. And when people were fighting in flame wars and they were yelling at each other and calling each other names, that just really seemed to, except for the people who were enjoying flaming, for everybody else, it just really seemed to suck the fun out of it. And back in the day, it got intense, but now it's even more intense, because before it was very much contained within fandom, and there was a background assumption that you were all still fans at the end of the day. And with shipping and flame wars these days, that's not always the case anymore. You'll have this assumption of, like, we're the true fans and you're not the fans, and that's really just not a fun, negative place to be for anybody. It's not. No one likes that. So no, I did not go through a rabid fangirl phase in terms of being negative or attacking other people or thinking that there was only one OTP or anybody who didn't ship what I shipped was stupid or dumb or anything like that. But I definitely went through phases where I, like, really cared about a character, where I was saving all the pictures of David Tennant that I could find, and, you know, using them as my wallpaper and printing them out, and had little David Tennant wall and stuff like that. So I definitely did that part of the fangirl thing, where I was really invested, or, you know, you're having a conversation and I'd be like, but how can I bring this back to David Tennant in some way? So that part for sure, just never the negative aspects, although I'm sure some people who didn't want to listen to me talk about David Tennant felt that it was very, very negative. Shut up about the Doctor, no one cares. All right, got a couple more from here. I assume you only like 5 very few canon ships and the rest are fanon. You're into astrology or you're not, and you know your sign, and you're probably a Virgo in that case, and you were a top student. I like the assumption that I was a top student. That's very nice. I was average until university. Then it kicked into gear. Then it was serious business. I do know my sign. I'm not overly into astrology. I find it fascinating. I'm not living my life by it or anything, but I'm a Gemini, actually. Duality, the ability to see two sides of a thing. I don't keep track of how many canon ships I have, but for me, the thing with canon ships is just constantly having to remind people that you can ship a canon ship, because if you don't support a canon ship and you support a fanon one, then if you follow the logic backwards, obviously it would have been possible to support the canon ships. You can ship the canon ship and write fics and explore it further than the show does. That's my thing with canon ships, is having to tell people, yes, that's still shipping. It's still a thing. Wow, my hands are huge if I put them that close. Selkie Mac Selkface says, I assume you have a handful of ships that change throughout your fandom experience, but you're hiding a passionate OTP that you won't admit. Everyone thinks I have one OTP. I don't. I don't. I cycle around. One thing I do though is I try to keep my ships to myself. as much as possible. It's not what you come here for. You don't come here for my ships, you come here for ships and fandom in general. Who cares what I ship, except for in this video? That's not true. I'm sure people care. I care deeply. Sierra Ace Extraordinary, thank you for your comment, but we've covered most of that stuff, except for the I feel like you have tons of headcanons that I know I'd like to hear, and you have songs that remind you of your OTPs. Okay, definitely yes. Fan mixes for days. If anybody has heard the song X Amount of Words by Blue October, it will forever make me think about Tony Stark for the rest of my life. Also, the song Bedroom Hymns makes me think about Joseph and Mary from Dream Daddy. Not Robert and Joseph, Joseph and Mary. Although you could make it Robert and Joseph if you wanted to. OT3. I do have a lot of headcanons. I have so many headcanons, but nobody cares because they're all for obscure things. But I will share one with you if you'd like. I talked about it a while ago on one of my Fic Rec Fridays where I recommended a Thunderbirds fic, and it is for John Tracy, the one who is stuck up in the satellite most of the time. And in reality, it's because the creator hated him. But in my head when I was a kid, and even to this day, I was like, why is he up there? He's never down here with his brothers. What did he do? Because that was my assumption. He had to have done something bad. So my assumption was that John Tracy had serial killer tendencies, and they learned this while out in a rescue when he killed somebody. And that's why they have to keep him locked up in the satellite so that he can't hurt people. It's the only way to keep his urges under control. It's a super dark headcanon for no reason. Why do I think this? But I'm convinced. John Tracy's a killer and he needs to stay up there. It's not safe. Keep him on the satellite. So yeah, that's what my headcanons are like. That's a glimpse into the mind. You can't always get what you want, but you can always get what you need. Okay, Twitter. I have to reply to this first comment from Zayn. My assumption is you ship Sasha and Kevin. That's sweet, my friend. That is, for those who don't know, that's me and my husband, and I do indeed ship us together. OTP, I guess that's my secret OTP that I've been hiding. My one true pairing. Artemis, I recognize your icon, Artemis, says, you've become numb to the fandoms and fics, and nothing impacts or surprises you anymore. I'm dead inside. Fandom did it. Actually, what still surprises me rather, is when there's no fandom. That is what surprises me, is when I go and there's not a ship or there's nothing for the fandom in general. That for me is still very much like, oh, so no one cares, huh? Just me. All right then. I feel like everything could have the potential for a fandom because I've seen so many different ones emerge. So when it doesn't happen, that's when I'm surprised. I used to be surprised a couple of years ago. I'd say about 5 years ago. I would have been surprised by the level of vehemence behind some of the ship hate and character bashing. But nowadays, sadly, I'm not surprised, and it's more surprising to see people be a bit more chill, which is a very saddening thing to say, to be honest. Licky XD says, you don't see everything in shipping goggles. Your favorite anime is some old anime no one has ever heard of. You non-ironically went to go see the Teen Titans Go movie, and when we're hardcore thirsty on stream, you act shy but secretly love it. Okay, so let's go through these one at a time. These are some good assumptions. You don't see everything with shipping goggles. That is true. Shipping goggles are an interesting thing to talk about. We did a video on them a while ago, and there's the assumption that it's kind of like glasses that you put on and off, or that you're purposely going in like, I will ship. It doesn't matter what it is. I need to ship, for a shipper must ship.
Try these on.
Look, you crazy mother.
Put these on.
Hey, stay away from me.
But I think shipping goggles are a bit more complicated than that, in the sense that once you've started shipping, it is definitely easier to ship or see cues for things that might start people shipping. But I personally don't go into any material looking to ship personally, but I do go in examining what will probably lead to the biggest ships. Like when I went to see Captain Marvel, instantly it was just, oh yeah, Carol and Maria, that's what people are going to be shipping. But I didn't go in personally looking to ship those two. I just went in to see the movie and see how I felt about it, because there was so much kerfuffle that I just wanted to form my own opinion of it. And the ships were incidental, rather. Like if I had come out and didn't think anything was going to be shipped, I wouldn't have made that video. Although I might have, because that's just the kerfuffle around that. Also, that's my word of the day, kerfuffle. Your favorite anime. I've talked about it once. It's Onisama E. I think some people have heard of it, but most people haven't. It's this great Yuri coming of age story, an old anime. I love it. It's beautiful. You non-ironically went to see the Teen Titans Go movie. I have never been shy about my genuine enjoyment of Teen Titans Go. That show was, when it came out, how it came out, that shaped a lot of how people looked at it and how harsh people were on it, and that continued on through and has continued through its entire run. Sometimes, yeah, it can be lowbrow and a little bit silly with some of its jokes, but a lot of its jokes are really, really clever. You're willing to laugh at some of the characters and know that the show is not saying that these characters are terrible. It's just playing up a lot of the attributes that were actually also there in the Teen Titans series. I know a lot of people are like, how dare you like the show? It's an insult. I personally don't think it's an insult. I think it's just meant to be a fun parody that's supposed to be a gateway for children to get into the characters, and also for adults just be able to smile at how they're twisting a lot of the tropes. Also, sometimes they get so amazingly petty and salty, but in a way that I find straddles that line of also being self-deprecating that creates a really interesting mix. There are a couple of episodes that do that perfectly, like the really serious episode where they talk with the team of Young Justice, or the episode where they have a fan and they bring them on. They're like, oh my god, we have one fan. I have a fondness for this show. Yeah, I went to see the movie. I do enjoy your stream first. Yes, it makes me smile. I go back and watch the chat after the streams are done. A curious dreamer says, your favorite Weasley is not one of the twins. You are excited for the office supplies dating sim. You prefer Pepper/Tony as a bromance. Your fave HP OT3s are Harry, Cedric, and Cho, and Ron, Hermione, and Crumb. I like how specific you got. You were like, I know you. My favorite Weasley is indeed not one of the twins. I'm not telling you though, you have to guess. I am excited for the office supplies game. I backed it. You prefer Pepper and Tony as a bromance? I do. I actually do. Who have you been talking to? No, neither of those are my HP OT3. I'm trying to think now. Well, I think maybe, I don't know. I'll get back to you. Mads Gambino says, you keep an actual list of ships. I do not. Which leads to some fun experiences where sometimes in my head I'll remember one exists and be like, oh, right, why did I stop looking at that, and run back to it. Queer Trek says, you enjoy relaxed cosplay. Superbat and Cable Pool are likely in your top 5 ships. You relaxedly scour the internet for out-of-context comic shipping panels and would gladly wear them on a shirt. You don't drink much soda. I do enjoy relaxed cosplay. I think cosplay should be for everyone. I love a great cosplay, but I also love a person who's trying and just getting into it. Superbat and Cable Pool, one of those is one of these ships that I constantly return to. I'll let you imagine which one that is. I don't scour the internet for out of context comic panels. Based on what I do, and not just for my channel, I will encounter them at times. And yes, I would wear all of them on a t-shirt anytime. Tony Stark Twinkie panel on my shirt. I don't drink much soda. No, I don't. Why do you know this? Christina A. Perez says, you're mediocre about some really popular ships. Yeah, that's true. There are some ships that are really popular that I personally don't ship at all. In the slightest. I'm torn between telling you what they are and what they aren't. I know that y'all get me, but some people are like, how Princess Gasp from the Chess of Blades streams. But I know some people are like, oh, well, if she doesn't ship it, then she can't talk about it. I don't know. Why does everybody do that as the hater voice? 2, you go through high points with ships, but only a few ships have a consistent place as your favorite ships. Yeah, that's fair. That's true. 3, you're biracial and very proud of that. That is also true. It's not something I talk about, but it is true. Carol Scarlett says, you don't have any RPF ships. I do, but they're very casual. They are very casual ships, definitely in the sense of personas and a separation of acknowledging that there are people and then there are the images that they present. And also more in the sense of when you're playing that game, when you're out at a restaurant and you look at a couple and you start trying to imagine their backstory of like, I wonder what they like. So what's one for me? I'll tell you one. Scott and Tessa are figure skating Canadian darlings, or they were. I think they're retired now. They were skating together for years, since childhood, and they've talked openly about people shipping them and how they feel about it, so that's been very interesting to see. But when they skate together, they have this energy, and it's very easy to imagine that they are a couple. So whenever I see them, it's in my head, I'm like, I bet they're the kind of couple that likes to eat dessert first, and they have matching sweaters, and in their spare time, they don't watch figure skating. But that's about the extent of it. And RPF, in my opinion, is all about boundaries and making sure you're creating proper boundaries and maintaining proper boundaries. No judgment here. Seriously, I say that all the time, but this is a no judgment zone. All types of shipping. I am firmly of the belief that you are not your ships at all. That's not you. There's so much more to you and what you do in the world that determines what makes you a good person or not. I know for some that's going to be a very controversial statement, but I stand by it 100%. Cassie says, I assume you probably ship some controversial ships, but you keep them to yourself to keep your channel relatively peaceful. I actually, thankfully for the audience, all of you, I don't have to work to keep it too peaceful. I like to think because of the tone that we approach ships from, because when I say we, I mean us as a community. I present them one way, but then you talk to me back, and that creates the environment. And because of how people have spoken, we've created a very open environment where for the most part, people will disagree quite cordially. Every now and again, yeah, of course, but for the most part, people are very respectful for each other. And even when things get a little heated, I see some of those threads end up resolving themselves quite nicely, which makes me very happy. So I don't avoid controversial topics though, no. What often happens is that there's so many things I want to talk about that just organizing the schedule with my job and motherhood and all the other aspects of my life just means that I am often what they colloquially call late to most topics, and so sometimes I decide to do them later or amass more research. And there have been so many times I've been working on something, the new information comes out later, and I'm just like, I'm so glad I waited. I'm so glad I waited. Some more cynical people might be like, but then you could have made 2 videos, but why make 2 when you can make 1 that's more accurate? That's how I look at it, at least. Thank you for the rest of the comments, but I'm going to hop over to YouTube because it's been 44 minutes. And now for the YouTube community tab, which I'm pretty sure most people turn off because some people use it as if it's MSN. Magdalena Warburton says, you don't mind an age gap ship if the dynamic isn't too creepy with romance added in. I feel like we've skirted this a little bit, but this deals more with tropes, I feel like. So I'm gonna tackle this from a trope perspective. I will explore all tropes. I've seen things. I will read anything, even things that make me uncomfortable, but that's just me. I know for some people they like to exclude tags and stuff. I don't. I, in fact, prefer to just go in completely blind. I am a person who doesn't even read tags sometimes because I enjoy going in, and I sometimes like putting myself in situations that make me uncomfortable and challenge me and make me look at what's bothering me. Why is this upsetting me? What don't I like about this? And I personally enjoy doing it in that way. And sometimes there are tropes that if they have bothered me in the past, I will just read them until they don't anymore, because I like being able to explore all facets of fandom by being able to immerse myself inside of all of them. I want to know, I want to understand, I want to know where people are coming from. I want to see what are the quote unquote problematic elements. I want to see when I can find the fix of people who are actually trying to hurt people versus people who are just working through stuff. I want to live it. I will just immerse myself in the darkness until I understand. That's just how I am when it comes to those types of things. I know that's not how everybody is, and you do what you have to do for your own sanity, but for me, that's how I approach it. A bunch of people here said that I was a multi-shipper. Queen Sheena says, you have a giant stash of fan memorabilia aside from the makeup stuff, and also said you either collected or knew someone who collected Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards as a kid. I have some stuff. I mean, I guess my biggest stash is not really memorabilia. I have a big comic collection that I sometimes put 1 or 2 back there, but a lot of them are over there, and I can't actually get them because of how it's organized over there. But whenever I find a cool t-shirt or plushie or something, I'll grab it, but I have to, budget. You have to pick and choose. So nail polish is the one thing I really allot myself because I just enjoy it so much. It's a very zen activity for me. Also, I collected Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and playing Yu-Gi-Oh in real life was nothing like playing it on the show, and my disappointment, I still feel it in my heart to this day. In my heart of the cards. John Cromwell, who, wow, a comment from Cromwell himself, says, going with a super specific ship. Could be on point or a million miles away. You ship Beverly Crusher and Deanna Troy. I like that you went for it. I like that you were like, yes. I do not, but I ship a pairing that no one else cares about, so if you wanna, I'll be specific back. Data and Deanna. Think about it. There you go. This one was one of my favorite assumptions, and it was from the awesome Sadie 70627. You're actually an alien who was sent to study human interaction, and you got enchanted by human fandom and decided to just roll with it. I love that assumption. Okay, story time, because why not? It's already been a million years and you're here. Maybe, if you're still here, yay, thank you. When I was a kid, I was bullied a lot. One of the things I used to do was pretend I was an alien from another planet, and I was just here to look at what people were doing, and it didn't matter whether I had friends or not. And I've just always loved aliens in general, so this one just really made me smile, like I'm some kind of shipping alien, like an alien came to Earth, and they're like, what's the best, well, how can we learn the most? Shipping. It's just a great concept. It sounds like a terrible 80s comedy that I would 100% watch. Merpug says, when you see a new movie / series, your sixth shipper sense already tells you the possible ships in it. Also, more of a crack headcanon, but when two nail polishes go really well together, you ship those too. We talked a bit earlier about kind of predicting what the top ships are going to be. Actually predicting what a top ship was going to be was how my fandom exploded, which was a storm pilot way back in the day. So shout out to storm pilot shippers. As for my nail polishes, I don't, but I do have a dream that one day maybe I would have my own polish line, and it would definitely be focused around ships, because of course it would. There's a frost iron polish that lives in my mind that I'm like, one day this frost iron polish will be real and the world will know about frost iron on their nails. Lucy Gray, you're a fan of both Marvel and DC, but with a little more preference for DC because it's where one of your favorite ships and / or character is. I am a bit more of a DC girl when it comes to it, but I think that's more because DC really got me in to that more mainstream type of what's associated with geek fandom and culture. So I still have a soft spot for a lot of those series. And I just always enjoyed DC series more than Marvel series. We're talking like animated series and stuff like that. Also, if I had to ever do a list of like top 10 heroes, I would say within the top 5, probably 3 or 4 of them would most likely be from DC for sure. Dragon Landlord says, you ship your fave character with multiple people in and out of their universe 100% all the time. All the people anywhere. Livi Dat Fangirl says, you can't cook and prefer home cooked meals to going out to eat. I can cook. I will eat any food however it's presented to me. I like cooking, but it depends how much time there is to do it. Livy also assumes you don't cringe or judge people easily, and you're very open and accepting. I don't cringe. I actually don't care for the word cringe. It's not like trash. I enjoy the word trash, but cringe I feel like says more about the person cringing than the actual event. Like you'll see that a lot with TikTok and stuff like, oh, so cringy, but cringe to me more connotes secondhand embarrassment about something that the person themselves would not do. But the other problem is that cringe has become one of those terms that's so unilaterally applied that cringe can now apply to something that's moderately embarrassing or something that's absolutely horrifying. So it's definitely no, I choose not to cringe. Formoka just had such a nice assumption that I have to share it, which is you're a mom and a shipper who likes to spread fandom around for all of us to enjoy. I really hope that that's what everybody's getting out of this channel, because that's what I want to do, most definitely. I think the most hurtful comment I ever received in my entire existence wasn't one with all kinds of racial slurs or sexual overtones or anything like that, which is very rare, by the way. But it was one that says, your channel is a place that spreads toxicity in fandom, and that just, I could have cried. It was so sad because it's the exact antithesis of what I'm trying to accomplish here. So I really hope that all of you feel the spread of fandom fundum. That's all I want. Luna Warren says, you love MrShipper and Baby Shipper more than fandoms, but you still love fandoms an awful lot. That's 100% true. Family first, fandom second, work third, no. Sprite Lady, you're fandom trash like everyone else here. I am. I think, and that's part of when I transitioned onto being on camera, it was to save editing time after I had the baby, but I think that gave a bit more of a personal face to the channel, which ultimately I think became a good thing, because when it was just a voice, I think a lot of people assumed that I had a kind of, not condescending, but aloof attitude towards fandom, like it was something that I just observed, but didn't actively partake in, or that I thought even, that's not academia, but like that I was too good for it, that we're better than it. But no, I absolutely love fandom. I love getting down in it. I love getting dirty in it. I love being in the trenches. I adore fandom so much. It's why it stayed with me. I love it. Also, if you're wondering what all the cuts are, I just have complete marble mouth today and everything's slurring together into one horrible not word. So yeah. Assumption, books versus movies. You rant to MrShipper about aspects of ships/fandoms you really dislike to keep your fandom a more positive space. I just rant to MrShipper in general. He's so up on my headcanons and fan theories that he started to form his own to complement mine. It's intense. He didn't ship that much when he first met me, but he ships a bit more now, or at least he's cognizant of when he's doing it. He too now plays the game of what's going to be the dominant ship, and sometimes he'll ask me if he's right, which is very cute. Hanas Stein says, you are friends with / related to an awesome professional hairstylist, or are one yourself. No, I am not. I know that I change my hair all the time, but I just have a salon that I go to, and I have been going to since I was in high school. I've always gone to the same person and the same stylist. Once I found someone who knew how to deal with my hair, which is pretty unique, once I found someone who knew what to do with it, I just held on and never let go. And they've been doing my hair ever since, and I completely trust them, which is why I will let them do anything. Zil Miracle says, you were kidnapped by Death Eaters who are posing as you and using the assumptions to find out more about you. I like this angle. I like it. But if you change it, Death Eaters, to Skrulls, I feel like it'll be more credible because Skrulls would have a reason to need to know more about me because they wouldn't have all my memories. I feel like Death Eaters could have sucked them out or something, so Skrulls. Let's go with Skrulls. Just Save 11 says, you watch Voltron and ship Keith and Lance, or Keith and Shiro, so Clance or Sheath. Personally, I do not ship either of those things. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier. I've read so many fics for both of these. I am in deep with both of these ships, but personally, in terms of do I ship them, I would say no, because they're not ships that I actively think about or return to outside of when I am dealing in the Voltron fandom, at which point I will just go insane and read every fic. I have Dirty Laundry saved on my computer. I also have when they got turned into the B-movie script. I have the big fics, the little fics. I am everywhere in this fandom. I have Tumblr blogs completely archived. It's a thing. But in terms of in my spare time, and it's like, what am I gonna read? It would not be either of those pairings in that fandom if I was going to seek something out. I'm going to end it with an assumption by Inga B. You have many more fandom themed nail polishes than you've shown us. So we've talked about most of these, but I'm going to handle this and end on a polish theme. I do have a lot more than I showed you. You don't, it's embarrassing. It's out of control. It's really not, but it's just I've collected a lot over the years, and sometimes even if some of them dry out, I keep them because I like the color or the bottle shape, or I want to remember what the shade was like, so if I see one that's similar, I can pick it up. So yes, we've been here. Wow. Even edited down, I feel like this is going to be a bit of a ride. So if I didn't get to your assumption, it's either because we already kind of talked about with somebody else or just because we didn't have enough time. So thank you so much for leaving all of them. I hope that you enjoyed this. I don't know where your assumptions met. Is this what you thought the video was going to be like? Do you need to unsubscribe now? You're like, oh, I learned so many horrible things. Well, let me know. It's fun because it's fun to be a bit more candid and talk like this because that's not what most of the videos are about. As mentioned early back in this, those are about exploring fandom from a general perspective. They're not about my perspective. So it's a bit fun to be able to chat like this, and I think it was more interesting than a standard basic Q&A. So this was fun. I had fun. I hope you had fun. I'm trying to sign out quick, which always makes me awkward. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. There are always more videos coming soon, and I will see you again when I can. Thanks again for the assumptions, and okay, we're leaving. It's been too long. Bye. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Special thanks to all of my patrons, names on the side, for helping to make these videos possible. There are, as always, more videos coming soon, so until then, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.